highest form of personal development that ever exists on the planet is running a business. Like,
I would
go ahead.
say yes to that, but I would also include a second version of that is content creation.
Okay. How so? Because you're embarking into this, so
I'm
this is a very
embarking
interesting
this
time.
right now.
Yeah. Which
I never.
before we get started, did you ever in your life think this?
No.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. To answer that question, so his question was going to be, did I ever think I was going to be in front of this camera or a camera like this? No.
Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome. Oh, from across the pond, we got him, Mr. D. Beveford in the house. How are you doing?
First one, but
first podcast. Don't worry,
Yeah,
I'm the host of many people's first podcast. We're going to be softballs, no true Austin Linney questions today, all softballs. So, do you mind if I start your intro and then I'll let you fill in?
Please.
Okay. So, How long ago, D? It was like 5 years ago? Maybe 4 or 5 years ago?
I would say, yeah.
Yeah, so I get a message on Instagram or email, I forgot, and you were working with Mike, you were learning Airbnb, you had worked in the restaurant business, and you said, I want to come work for you, and I told you no, not at all, and you're like, no, and you were like very persistent, so you come over and you work for me, you worked on the podcast, you worked on the Airbnb stuff, and so on, and then you really thrilled me when you decided to, jump out into your own. And that's where I want to let you tell the story, because that's what I'm so excited about, what you're doing now these days, and to watch this trajectory and stuff like that. Why don't you fill in the audience kind of on what you do on your day-to-day now?
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy that it's like full circle. Going from like working on the podcast,
to being on the podcast.
to being on the podcast. Yeah, it's for sure. It took years, but I needed those years after I said I wanted to be alone to, one, to be in this position to be able to talk like this, but
Sure.
also at the same time, just having that experience of eating shit, essentially.
Hey, listen, you know Omar, right? You know Omar? Yeah. I was in Costa Rica with Omar, and he said, I'm going to tell you what entrepreneurship is. We're walking in the morning around his neighborhood. And I said, okay. He said, entrepreneurship is, he's like, you're sitting at the end of a table. They pull up a nice bowl of dog shit and they put it in front of you. And he's like, you eat the whole bowl and then they give you another bowl. And the bowls keep coming until there's nothing left. He goes, that's entrepreneurship.
It's a buffet of shit, yeah.
So what are you doing now with your partners and so on and so on?
Yeah, so short-term rentals has pretty much been what I decided just to double down on and just have that be my path to, I guess, an outlet. It's an outlet for, one, being business entrepreneurial, to the path of self-discovery kind of thing. Like, I feel like business in itself helps yourself grow. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you're growing a business to do something that you want to do full-time or in the long term. I'm not sure where I'm going with that, but I started with business partners as far as short-term rentals, and grew the portfolio to over 50 plus units and 7 markets, and realized we didn't like that. We were spread too thin. There's only 1 unit per market. It just didn't make sense. There's no economy of scale. So we brought it back down, acquired a hotel resort in the Lake of the Ozarks, and just brought down the portfolio to a level where it's manageable. It's people we want to work with, and it's investors that we want to help out with our service.
And do you think that you could be as comfortable as you are now scaling back the portfolio is always an interesting conversation, but do you think you could have been as comfortable sitting where you are now if you wouldn't have gone out there and said, this doesn't make sense to me?
I think it's seasons of yes and seasons of no's. Like
Mm-hmm.
you go through a season of yes, we said yes to everything. We went to all the markets. We said, we'll take it on because that's what you start out doing. You just think that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a reason for that. Like you figure out what to say no to during that season. And that's when we decided to scale back. It's okay, this doesn't fit our investor box anymore. This doesn't fit the house that we co-host or a house that we service anymore. So it's like until we got over that hump of knowing what we wanted to do in reality, like everyone always starts out with this grand picture. We're going to get to 150 units. We're going to crush it. We're going to make this much money. But then as you go through it and you say yes to everything, you're like, no, I don't want that. Comes to find out, I don't want that at all.
Yeah. And it's hard because, especially when you're starting out, and this is my message to everybody, is like you need the money to like build the business so everybody can get paid. So you're like, yes, I'm gonna say, and we're dealing with it in a different scenario with HVAC, like large scale commercial HVAC, like that number sounds super sweet. And then it's like a year worth of like a terrible client. And you're like, you feel like you're being chased around by like a crazy ex-girlfriend. And you're like, dude, this is not worth it. And I don't even know if I'm going to make any money on this thing. And when you could just say, oh, I could have my own hotel, like that's what I could do. And I'm the client, like that's probably a cool, like in all seriousness, like, you pursued something, real estate, right? Like it had to be a very surreal moment to go from like I own a hotel. Like that's such a wild experience. Like was that a crazy moment for you?
I think after signing, or Z, the partner, he did a lot of that acquiring his acquisitions. And after signing that document of like, we're closing on this, I don't think it really hit until like a year later. Like we're a year in right now. It's like, okay, we actually do hold a hotel. Like, just because you sign the papers doesn't mean you actually realize what you're doing until you go through the motions.
Totally. And have you seen it yet since you've been in London? Since you're in London right now?
Been 3 times. Yeah.
3 times. Okay.
Before we bought it, during it, and then.
What's your advice to people? Right, because your girlfriend she works for Google. Y'all moved from Vegas to London, so you're in London and you're investing in all these properties and managing all these properties. Like, what's your advice to people? You're like literally across the country investing in real estate in America.
Yeah, remote working. I think that's a good word to sum that up. And it's you remote work by finding people that also remote work to help you. So in the essence of that, it's like, it's pretty nice. Like you're remote working, remote work. So I'm over here only because I have a team of VAs that's able to do it in the Philippines. So they do a lot of the operations day to day, and that frees up my time to be kind of like location independent. Mm-hmm. But also I have partners where one is boots on the ground and one does acquisitions, and they're both still in the States. So it's not only because I have a remote team helping with a lot of stuff, I also have partners as well that's in local. And they knew 1 year beforehand I wanted to move. This is what our plans are. So it's like being upfront with, if you do have partners, that this is what you want to do, this is where you're going. And if they would have said no, then it's like, okay, that's where I come to a reflecting point. What do I do now? Like, okay, here's my shares, buy it, and then I just move on to something else kind of thing. So it's like, always present yourself with options way ahead of time, which, since you know me, that's my style of just like pre-planning and details for everything. I'm not like you. I cannot just up and go tomorrow to another coast just because I want to.
No.
I wish I could be like that.
So
no.
Let's be honest. You needed the year to plan your entire next life out, because that's how long you needed, right? Yeah.
And I think that's a good advice. Like, know the type of person you are and plan for that. Like, if you're okay with moving tomorrow to another country and you have your visa ready and you can do it. But if you're like me.
So my office manager, they got married, right? And as a gift, we sent, there's 2 of them work for me. We sent them on a honeymoon to California from Pennsylvania. They'd never been, besides North Carolina, they'd never been to California, right? So me, I just book an Airbnb whenever, and like it was getting closer to their honeymoon, and like I could tell like every day she was like, "Are you gonna book it yet?" And like I was just like, finally I went in there and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put you. She's a very big time planner. I was like, I'm gonna put you out of your misery. I was like, let's sit down, let's book it. And I was like, because I know that you like mentally you can't handle this anymore. And I was like, I would book on the plane over. And she's like, yeah, you're crazy. She's like, that's insane.
That's true Austin Linney fashion.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so what I love about that, right? And what you said, your advice was amazing. I think that especially this day and age, we try to change who we are instead of embrace who we are, and just know that that's what you need to be successful. And more importantly, like to put that out of your mind, like just lean into that version of yourself.
100%. And I think it goes back to that season of yes and no. It's like you're stripping down the layers of like learning truly how you operate as a business owner or just as a person when you're operating with multiple people or with partners. Like you don't really know yourself until you actually go through a good couple of years.
I believe, and I said this the other day, I believe that the highest form of personal development that ever exists on the planet is running a business. Like
I would
go ahead.
Say yes to that, but I would also include a second version of that is content creation.
Okay. How so? Because you're embarking into this, so this is a very interesting time. Right yeah. Which before we get started, did you ever in your life think this?
No.
Okay.
No,
yeah.
Not at all. To answer that question, so his question was going to be, did I ever think I was going to be in front of this camera or a camera like this? No. But the reason why I say content creation is another form of self-development or podcasts like this, like they're doing. I'm pretty sure you can attest to the statement. Everything you say has weight to it, and you just have to start living it. You can't put out content and say certain things that you yourself don't believe. And that's what I'm finding out currently as I'm making this type of content is what do I want to put out there in the world? What standard, as I'm doing like short-term rental content, virtual assistant content, like what standard should everyone be living to that I also adhere to? Not just what everyone says. And it's like buzzwords that people like to do and just repeat. And I think a good Alex Hormozi quote is, or it could be Chris Williamson, I've been in a modern wisdom kick. You can't explain the belief, then the belief is not yours. It's borrowed.
That's crazy. I love that one. Yeah, because I'm right now I'm revisiting all my 4 agreements, my 5 levels of attachment, my TOTEC stuff, and that's basically what they're talking about is like a lot of times that we behave a certain way, but we're actually programmed to behave that way. We don't actually believe it, right? So I have a friend who has 100 and something podcasts, and he's very similar to you, and he never thought in the history of the world he would have a podcast ever, and it's he still like sweats before he pushes record, even though he's done 100. It's ridiculous, right? He's a good friend. What did you learn about yourself the most in the start of this content creation? And what's your advice to other people?
Your own pace. What I mean by that is I hired a coach to do this as far as like helping me get to the first 100 videos, and his program is called First 100 Videos. So simple as that. Something that should have taken me, 60-second reel, something that should have taken me maybe 5-10 minutes to create. It took me about 45 minutes on my first one. And it sounds stupid. 45 minutes to make a 60-second clip. But that's the pace that I needed to go to get that done. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as you get that first one done is what I found to be most encouraging. Because once that first one is done, okay, now the goal is to get it in 40 minutes to get the 60-second clip. Now the next goal is 35 minutes to get the 60-second clip. And it's just, now I know, because what the coach says, like it should only take you 5 to 15 minutes max. I know where my goal is to be to get this 60-second clip done. But at my own pace, I need to get there and figure out myself, my voice. Looking at the camera is the hardest thing so far. It's like I tend to look away. It's just, I didn't think I'd be doing this. So it's just more of being okay with me allowing myself to go at this at my pace.
And one of my favorite lines I've ever heard is like, from that book that I was talking about, is he says, I I only can control what I say. I can't control what you hear. And it's the truth, right? And YouTube is king for this. People see a 30-second clip of me, and they've decided they sum up my entire life with "fuck you, you're an elitist piece of shit," and you've seen a 30-second. You know nothing about me, and it doesn't get any easier, right? When you've got that multiple times, but you have to realize, like, I'm here because I feel like I have stuff to share. All I can control is like the things that I say, and it is what it is. It doesn't.
That just
Well, it doesn't. What I'm saying is, like, understand that I've done 1,000 podcasts plus in like 5 years. It doesn't get any easier. Like, I still have like a tinge of like, when you push record, but like I've just pressed it so many times, you're like, whatever. Like, we're just gonna do
default.
it. Now, where I have a problem is if you need me to give you any structure content. Like, I can't do it. Like, I just, and so we all have our moments where like certain things, like if you need me to read something, like a sponsorship ad, like, oh, good, that'll take me an hour. But yet, if you want me to like just have a conversation, it's like whatever, you know. And so like we all have our certain ways. I still get nervous when I speak to people in person, like when you get up on stage and stuff. So my hope is that I believe a couple things. I believe that everybody has a book in them, and I believe everybody has a podcast in them. Doesn't mean they have to do either one, but share something somewhere, because it's like you said, it's there's a podcast I did a long time ago with Omar, and it was like before I had my podcast, and like if I'm ever having a bad day, like a really bad day, I'll listen to that one, and it's just a reminder of how far I've come. So like podcasting and like creating content is really just a chronological marker for like who you used to be. John Maxwell, my favorite quote, he says, the problem with writing books is at the moment that you put the word on page, you've already changed your mind.
Not only that, but recollection of the past is so inaccurate. It's how we experienced it within the motion of that time. But having, like you said, a document version of it, it eliminates all of that. Like you can, okay, this was actually what happened, not what I thought would happen.
Yeah, totally. So when you're, just to cover, I want to make sure I cover this. So VAs, remote work, which I'm still, in my mind, I'm still laughing. There's a guy in London and there's a bunch of people in the Philippines who are running a property in Missouri.
Missouri,
you know?
yeah.
So I just think that's so cool. What do you think are what do you think are the missteps for people when they're looking to either bring on VAs or trying to help them? What do you think are kind of the areas that they're missing the boat?
It's more of just not starting to do it. I think it's more of the area of just not starting and thinking that no one else can do the job better than you.
Mm-hmm.
And while that is true, because one, if you did hire a virtual assistant, they're never gonna 100% do the work that you do to the level that you can do, because they don't own the business. They don't get the profits that you do. It's like they don't have that same incentive that you do. And that's why you're always going to do the job better than anyone else. To combat that is you need someone to do the job that's going to be 80% good of what you are expecting to do. And as long as that gets done, you can always improve that 20% and save time. That would be the first one. The second one is hiring. When you hire a virtual assistant, people will hire for a person that is so generalized, and they hope that they can tackle anything you throw at them. And I guess that's a rookie mistake I see most people do. Mm-hmm. You want to hire for the role, so be very clear on your job description. Like, what are they doing? What time are they working? What days are they working? And just clarity of what that person is going to do is going to help you separate, like, okay, now I know 100% that this task list is handed off to this one person. They own it. And if you want to add on it, it's something that you guys both agree upon and make sure that both parties are okay with, okay, this still falls within the job description, and yes, they can handle it. And if they say no, that's okay. That's when you can hire another virtual assistant to start tackling another subset of rules or tasks that you need to get done. So second one is, to recap that, is hiring for the role and not the task, not task in general. I feel like everyone just leaves that blanket. The third one is, if I had to sum it up to 3, starting sooner. Most people regret not just freeing up their time sooner than later, kind of thing. And there's never a perfect time to hire someone. I mean, this is essentially what it is. It's hiring someone within your business. There's never a good time. And there's never a before or after or a sweet spot. It's always you either hire before you need them or you hire too late and after you need them. But yeah, I would put it to those 3 things that first for virtual assistants.
And I think that the way I look at it is like, if they can get it 80% of the way, and then you can handle the last 10% or the last 15%, like that's the key. And like, I agree with you. One of the things that's never talked about enough is the hiring for a certain task and letting them be great at that task. You know, the problem that we found when hiring, because we were doing a lot of it right now, and we just literally talked to somebody right before this, is we don't spend enough time on our end defining them, and then they are doing 5 different jobs they shouldn't be doing, and here we are, and now they feel, and like what there was like a stat or something, like, so what we do is 2 things that people could take away. One, we have a person in our company who's our training specialist, but he's also our onboarding guy. So the first day they work, he meets with them for an hour and a half, answers every question, tells them about the company. And then after they work with us for 3 to 4 weeks, then all of the new hires sit down with me and ask me any questions about, hey, what's your time? Is there anything we missed? And like, that is so much important. And trust me, it took me doing it the wrong way many years to understand. And you know, you're excited for them to, like, we have a marketing coordinator who's starting. Like, you're excited for them to start, but like, we're not ready for them to start because we haven't even had any meetings about exactly what she'll be doing. So it's like, can you give us 3 weeks? Like, and you have to like lay out, you have to set them up for success. I know that's an easy thing to say, but super important.
To that point, and I think you're really good at this, is drawing out like what is their vision, what is their goals. And the best thing that I've heard from Dan Martell is like Leadership 101 is having a dream or company that can fit all your employees' 5 years goals in.
Sure.
And I feel like you're great at drawing that out and trying to figure out what that is from them.
So that's actually the question I asked them. As I said, 5 years separate from this, what is your dream role? What is your, you know, what do you want? You're like, do you want a house? Do you want a farm? Like, what is it? Like, let's talk about more. Like, perfect example is like, we had a new sales guy start. He came from a bigger company. And like, I was like, hey, introduce yourself to the other sales guy. And he's like, oh yeah. Like, he's like, I do this. And he's like, I've sold this. And I was like, hey, I stopped him like mid-sentence. I said, hey, we're not like everybody else. I'm asking you about your family. Like, tell me about your life. Like, I know you're good at what you do over there. Well, that's what they'll handle. But they want to know about your kids. They want to know like your ex-military. And so like people just aren't used to like, okay, like this is different.
Yeah. And I feel like it's taboo. Like it's not really encouraged anywhere else to like talk about families, like, or even better, talk about stressful moments that you're having during the week.
Yes.
Like how do you feel during the week?
Yeah.
We're taught to just bury that and just.
It just happened this morning. Listen. The install guys are going to be mad at the sales guys because they said they didn't sell the job right. The sales guys are going to be mad at the install guys because the install guys are mad. I said, hey, you're not going to make them happy. Just leave it alone and just learn. It's like, he's like, you serious? I'm like, yeah, dude. Like they're a grumpy bunch, but I love them to death. And I was like, he's like, okay, I'm good. I was like, okay, like, you know, you have to spend some time with people, getting to know them outside of things. And you say like, hey, a simple question is like, hey, you good? Like, no, but really, like, are you good? You know what I tell owners all the time, owners of businesses, the hour that you'll spend in the morning asking your team how their weekend went and smiling and shaking their hand and checking on them will be the biggest ROI in your business for the entire week.
And I think that also changes your entire week as well. Let's just say you did this meeting on Monday. Like, you know, someone just, like, in our example, my head VA, her father just got diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
But if I don't ask those types of questions and if she's not willing to share those kind of things with me, like, that changes my whole week now. Now my whole expectation of this, and this, I thought by on Sunday when I'm planning things, needs to get done by Wednesday. That goes out the window now because it's more about her. Okay, she's going through this. I know it's going to be another week before this thing I thought was going to get done on Wednesday will get done. Just think it helps with setting expectations when you actually do ask these types of questions of your team members and just people around you, how they're feeling, because you don't know how they feel. You're just guessing. And you have your own subset agenda to do throughout the week. But it's not just you playing this game of life. You're playing with everyone else around you. So it's like, know where they are as well to help set yourself to win for that week.
100%. Said perfectly. So one thing before we get you out of here. So you move from Vegas to London. What's been the biggest kind of learning lesson for yourself that's been different?
Oof. It's not as convenient. Everything does shut down at like 9 or 10, and it's like a town. So like Vegas is 24 hours, and I was used to convenience, and nothing really started until 11 p.m. But here, everything ends at 9:30, and Sundays is dead. So I think it's just more of getting used to business and hospitality, and just customer service is out the window. It's not existent in the
How's the rain
in general. Yeah, every day.
Every day.
You can see behind me. It's gloomy outside.
Now, my only question would be: Have you been in the town when like London's playing, like the soccer game?
Oh, I'm actually right next to it. I'm next to the stadium.
So that gets pretty nuts, huh?
Yeah. So we learn the rowdier the crowd is determined by how many horses there are outside.
Horses? Oh,
yeah,
for the police.
Yeah,
and the police. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when there's like a Manchester and Manchester U, and just rivalries. You'll see horses everywhere.
Oh, that's great. So if people want to track you down, they want to learn about your company, how would they do that?
Yeah, just simple. Instagram, D@Beveford, Bever F4AD. That's where I'm focusing on. Top of funnel, Instagram, Reels, content creation. And anything from there, you can probably do the link tree.
See, guys, it wasn't that bad. He survived. First podcast down. Many more to come. If you like this episode, send it to a friend. Send it around. We'll see you soon.